Jessica, it's almost time. Phase E of my life is almost over. Phase 2 is about to begin. My feelings are mixed and intense. I just have to hold on a little longer, and then it will be too late for me to back out. Phase E of my life had two parts, pre-Ray and post-Ray. In pre-Ray life, I was miserable. I was ugly, unmanageable, mousy brown hair, acne-ravaged face, glasses, double chin, small breasts, rolls of tummy fat, and a big bottom. I survived through self-deprecation. When someone made fun of my looks, I agreed with them and laughed with them. And then I cried on the inside. I had several acquaintances and no friends dating. Then Ray came along. It was a typical day in the school cafeteria. Some of my female acquaintances were teasing me about how I would never have a date because of how I looked, and I was laughing along with them. Ray was a well-respected student. He was athletic, smart, and good-looking. We knew who each other was, but we were not close. Stop it. There is no reason to treat her that way unless you deliberately want to be mean and cruel. I will personally beat up every guy you try to date if you don't stop your harassment. I was shocked. No one had ever defended me before. The girls looked ashamed and went somewhere else to sit. Ray sat down across from me. I had no idea what to say. My happy feelings about what happened disappeared quickly. Jessica, you're as bad as they are. How can anyone respect you if you don't respect yourself? You are a good person, and I think you look just fine the way you are. I started crying out loud. They were teasing you about never having a date. Let's put that insult to rest. Jessica, would you go out with me for dinner and a movie this Friday? I'm not sure what I said in response as my mind was in a fog from what he said. I said yes because we went out that Friday and many times after. When I was with him, I always felt pretty valued and respected. We talked about many things, but my feelings about myself were a common topic. Sometimes I would have a date with someone else, but I was only excited when Ray asked me. By the time we graduated, two things had been settled. I had a modicum of self-respect, and I was in love with Ray. We went to college together and soon shared an apartment. He was my first and only. I enjoyed the sex we shared every time. There wasn't a big proposal moment. We both just knew we would be getting married. Within a couple of months after graduation, we both had jobs. We picked a house that would accommodate us and a couple of kids. Several years later, our son arrived. He was sort of planned and sort of a surprise. We were ready to have kids and just took no precautions for me not to get pregnant. My pregnancy was horrible. I gained almost 50 pounds. My acne-covered face looked like I had moon craters. During the last 3 months of pregnancy, my son seemed to know how to hit every nerve in my pelvic area just as I was falling asleep. I thought I was miserable, but I found out things could get worse. I had toxemia and almost died before Ray got me to the hospital. Luckily, the baby and I both lived. I begged Ray to let me have my tubes tied. I did not want to go through this ever again. He agreed. Nathan, our son, was a clone of Ray. They bonded at first, which was good, as I was in pain and I was not feeling very maternal. Ray was and is a great father. When they are together, I feel more like a maid than a wife or mother. I was not that unhappy. It was just the way things were. What drove me into a depression was how I saw myself in the mirror. I looked even worse than I had as a teenager. Ray never complained or stopped telling me I was still beautiful to him. No diet or exercise routine worked for very long. 2 incidents gave me the motivation to change. One of Nathan's friends, who was about age 4, was pointing me out to his parents. She's the fat one. I laughed, but it hurt. It hurt bad. Secondly, my parents were killed in a car accident. Although that added to my depression, it gave me a large amount of money to use however I wanted. It seemed every commercial on TV at that time was about facelifts, acne treatment, double chin reduction, removal of tummy fat, etc. I went to Ray and told him that I wanted to use my inheritance to pay for various treatments to improve my appearance. I was crying when I asked. Ray said that it was my money to use as I wanted. He said that he was fine with how I looked now, but if it would make her happy, it was okay with him. That's when I began to change. It took 2 years of surgery, including breast implants, liposuction, and fanny tuck. I also attended fat camps to help get me where I wanted to be. I had to be away from home a lot during this time. Ray and Nathan seemed to manage well without me. Nathan even joked when my face was wrapped in bandages, "Look, my mommy is a mummy." Along the way, I got makeup and clothing advice. New blonde hair color and style were added along with a manicure and pedicure. Blue-tinted contact lenses replaced my glasses. I knew I had reached my goal when I was modeling an LBD at the clothing store, and the clerk said, "Honey, you look so good you could cure erectile dysfunction." My attitude changed as well. I started making friends with other gorgeous women, sort of an **F club. Now, instead of talking about child care and housework, I was talking about sexual techniques and affairs. Affairs to these women were not something to feel guilty about. They were deserved. The idea of an affair became an exciting fantasy for me. The danger of sneaking around and maybe getting caught. The chance to have sex with a different man. Ray was the only man I had ever had sex with. I blamed life's unfairness for having missed out on being with other men. I had overcome life's unfairness. So now it was time I got reparations for those miserable years of my life as the ugly duckling I was owed. My affair started when I was to meet my friend Mary Jo at the new Mediterranean restaurant downtown. She had recommended it highly. I got there early, which was good because the place filled up quickly. I sat at a round table outside with an umbrella overhead. After waiting a while, I got a text from Mary Jo. Something had come up at her work and she could not join me. I was in the process of deciding whether to stay or not when he came over. He was Gregor. He was a Greek god. I fell in lust immediately. I think he asked if he could join me for lunch as there were no empty seats. He sat down, although I don't think I said anything. My affair had begun. He was everything the new Jessica wanted: handsome, dark, swarthy, rich, and somewhat a bad boy. Just about everything, Ray wasn't it? Didn't have many more meetings for us to wind up in bed. It was wonderful. I had not been multi-orgasmic before. I did not hesitate to try anything. He wanted to do things I had denied Ray as too dirty. In a few months, I decided that I wanted Gregor all the time. He agreed. We planned for me to go to Greece with him and leave my old life behind. He offered the new Jessica exactly what she wanted: a new life. Although I loved Ray, still, I was in love with Gregor. I was thankful to Ray for what he had done for me, but he was not my soulmate. Nathan was a good kid, but he was and always would be Daddy's boy. During my surgeries, they had proved they could get along without me. I had suffered a great deal during my old life. Starting over in a foreign country with the love of my life became my focused goal. Gregor asked me to start transferring my money to a bank account in Greece. He tried to help me get it set up, but the transfer of funds was such a hassle that I just let him have access to my accounts to do it for me. We waited for the perfect time for me to just leave. Ray could file for divorce because of abandonment. There would be no divorce papers for me to give him a warning. Our chance came when Ray was scheduled for a week-long seminar in San Francisco. Gregor and I were scheduled for a quick honeymoon in the Bahamas before heading to Greece. It has been hard to keep it together, knowing what was within my reach. Any misgivings about what I was doing were blanked out by thinking of my time in bed with Gregor and our future together. I was finally going to get what I was due from life. At the house, Ray came into the house at 6 p.m., more than a half hour later than normal. His tie was off and he looked terrible. Uncharacteristically, he threw his suit jacket on the couch and headed for the refrigerator. He took down a glass from the cabinet next to the fridge and filled it half full with ice from the ice maker. Next, he went to the liquor cabinet and got the Knob Creek bourbon. Once the glass was literally splashed with bourbon, he picked up a ginger ale and finished off filling the glass. Immediately, he took a big swig and said, he went over to his recliner and fell back into it, making sure not to spill his drink. His wife, Jessica, came out of the laundry room, down the hallway, and into the living room. "You're late. I'll have to warm up dinner, since you didn't bother to let me know you were going to be late." The only response from her husband was a look from his dead eyes. She decided to be nicer. "This was not the time to make waves. You look worn out. Bad day at the office? It's a good thing you've got your big trip to San Francisco tomorrow. You'll be able to get away from all the craziness of the office. By the way, are you all packed yet?" She was having trouble acting sad that he would be gone for a week while being glad for the planned getaway with her lover to the Bahamas. Jessica was about to mention how much she would miss him when he interjected,